Hello, I'm Max Kamachi, and I'm in 8th grade, and today I'm interviewing my dad, Raj Kamachi. So,
Hey Max.
hi. So, how was your childhood experience?
It's a long story for a short question, I would say. Uh, may I ask what part of the childhood? Is it like the early teen or the preteen?
All
Which
of it. Your life story.
it's gonna take longer than 15 minutes, but I'll try. Being born native Indian, my parents, your grandparents are from India, South India specifically, in the state of Tamil Nadu, and we immigrants we immigrated to Southeast Asia. Actually, your grandparents did uh, in the country of Malaysia, which is the border of Thailand and Singapore. And I was born there. I was born there in 1972. Um, we were growing up very poor. Dad, your grandfather was a longshoreman in the port city. Um, it's not the longshoremen that you see today. They don't get paid well there, so it it's pretty much picking up loads of crates and loading it up on shipyards and ships and unloading them. So um, and then mom, your grandmother was a stay-at-home mom, and she worked hard. She kept the family together. Um, so your grandpa was the breadwinner basically, and I have two sisters. One is oldest, and a youngest one. The youngest one is 8 years younger than me, and then the oldest is 2 years older than me. At a time, at the time that we were growing up, we didn't have anything. We didn't have a TV. We didn't. We barely got to eat 3 times a day. If we did, we'll probably have leftovers for the next 3 days. We'll get to eat chicken once a month if we're lucky, and that's how life was, pretty much. Very minimal, and I was a very very curious kid for some reason, and I still can't explain. I would I would walk around the street. I was pretty much a loner for the whole time of my life. Um, did have friends, but not until the later teenage years. So quite a bit of a gatherer, a hoarder, I would say. I would go on the streets and pretty much bring all kinds of junks home. I'll accumulate a lot of junk. Any nuts and bolts, gear looking thing, I would attract my attention. And
So, what'd you do with those stuff that you gathered?
again, I was a curious kid, and I, I love to build things. Always wanted to build things. You know, we never, I never got a toy for my birthdays or anything. My mom will bake a cake, and that's the present um, for my birthday. And never really had a gift, a birthday gift in my life, right? So I would go ahead and build these toys myself with with my imagination. I'll go through garbage and break these broken toys and get this DC motors out and get some batteries and just make do some cars and whatnot. Actually, I've pulled it off quite a bit. I've pulled off some cool projects out of that. It was just that, just me playing by myself. I talked a lot with myself, obviously, being alone and independent, pretty much. Um, I love food. Um, with what we've got, mom, traditional Indian woman. She was a very good cook too. So, along the way, I mean, it was just normal life. But the hardship was that it's just, the clothing. I get to wear one pair of shoes the whole year, and they rip. I get to wear one pair of shorts for 2 years, and I'll grow out of it until they tear, until you see the tear. And sometimes you feel like you go to school and you get teased because of these things. However, is the situation at that point, like the family just had to prioritize, um, the expenses, right? You have to justify what you're spending on. Everything is food and rent. We were renting, obviously. I was growing up in a Chinatown, so only a couple of Indian family, but growing up in Chinatown was hard enough because my next door neighbors don't speak Indian, so they spoke Chinese. So you have to communicate with them. So I was exposed to these different cultures at a very young age. Um, so
So continuing later into your life, how were the middle school through high school years of your life?
it was challenging. It was getting harder and harder for me socially as I breathed through elementary and then going into middle school. You'll get bullied day in, day out. You walk out of the door, something bad's going to happen. That's the situation. It's just the environment as such. There were pockets of gangs, teenage gangsters, all the way up to adult gangsters will ask money from you, will extort money from you, or they threaten you to beat you up. So these were normal in school. So to put in perspective, you have to know how to defend yourself. You just don't have a choice. That was an eye opener for me. I was a very, very sheltered kid, I would say. Just enjoy playing toys and whatnot. I didn't know how to fight, nothing. And I was pushed to the brink to the point where I had to defend myself every day. And it just turned out to be that, hey, this is the way of life. So you had to know how to learn, how to fight, basically. So that was another chapter of my life that I grew up with. So I befriended my friends who protected me at some point. They taught me the street smarts. And in return, you have to protect them. So it was that brotherhood thing that evolved. So at home, nobody knows. I'm just an innocent little son comes home. But outside, I'm actually involved in a lot of fights, street fights, day in, day out. That was life. It was inevitable. I mean, the neighborhood we were living in. This is what it is, right? You ride your bicycle and you don't know you'll get stopped and you get beat up for no reason. So that's the nature of it, I would say.
I have a question. So about fighting, how did you continue, to learn about this? What spurred you to be I need to defend myself? What was that snap moment?
I still remember clearly what really snapped one day. I was just running in a park. Rain had just stopped and it was pretty quiet in a park. And my friend and myself, we said, hey, why don't we just go running and sprint and start jogging a little bit. So we went out we call it exercise, back in those days. At a distance, we noticed about a group of 20 teenager to adults just riding their bike towards us. We couldn't tell what it was, but they started approaching us, and we didn't really care about it, and just passerby, whatever. And the closer they were getting, they were just looking at us, and I figured, okay, there's got to be some trouble coming up. And they just approached us, and they started beating the hell out of us at that point. And this is all for no reason. They just decided to, hey, we're going to jump to these two guys, and we were getting pounded. I was crying. My friend was crying. We were just begging. And I took off running, and they held my friend at that point. They clearly shouted, they yelled at me, if you don't come back, we're going to really kill your friend. So I actually went back, and I got a double whammy there when I got back. Luckily, there were some good Samaritans at that point passing by, and they started interfering, and these guys just took off running. So it's, we were saved by them, by these few folks, good people. That point it dawned on me that what would have happened if, they didn't come, you know. So that, do I want to go and tell my parents about this? Do I want to get my parents involved in this? So I don't want to hurt my parents either. I don't want them to get hurt by these bad people. So that's the chapter that dawned on me that I have to do something about it. So I joined the gang, and that's the life of a gangsters started then. To answer your question,
So how did you progress through high school? I mean, in your gang, and like, how was like, how, what did you think your future was gonna be at the time?
always wanted to make it big. I don't know why. I knew deep in myself that I could do better than what I was doing then. Every day in, day out, you go out, there's a fight after school, there's a fight during recess, there's a fight, brewing with another gang in another area. So you have to back your, gang members up. They back you up. This is how it went. Life goes on. But I always had interest in my school studies, like math and science was very, very interesting to me. So no matter what I did, I always paid attention to those couple of, plus English, obviously. So I loved those, and really never sat down and studied. But every time I went in those classes, I paid attention, right? So my grades weren't that great, but they were okay. I wasn't failing those. I was failing, 3 other subjects, but I wasn't failing the math or the sciences. I was holding it steady. I didn't think of anything. I thought that was my life. At that point, I didn't even think that I was going to make it out alive at the age of 18, because I was going to die, I thought, because no one really makes it in gang life past 18. So yeah, there wasn't really a future.